A few days ago, the CEO of one of America's biggest fast food empires did the kind of thing that usually gets corporate executives fired on the spot. Speaking to investors, he didn't hide behind charts or polished corporate jargon. He admitted it outright. We made our food worse. He said out loud what everyone already knew. In the race to save a few pennies, they destroyed the one thing that mattered most, the taste, and what made them different from the competition. That CEO was Wendy's. And while he was saying those words, acknowledging a disastrous 7% drop in sales, something unbelievable was happening over at the headquarters of their biggest rival. Because right now, while the entire fast food industry is falling off a cliff and people are refusing to pay $18 for a plastic-tasting burger, Burger King, a brand that spent the last decade feeling more like an internet punchline than a serious threat, is posting phenomenal 8.5% growth. They just kicked the door down. They passed Wendy's and reclaimed the title of America's second largest burger chain. So how did the perennial underdog in the cardboard crown manage to win a war that everyone else is spectacularly losing? To understand how absurd this is, we need to accept one brutal truth. Fast food as we knew it is dead. For decades, there was an unspoken social contract between giant corporations and our stomachs. Sure, we knew this wasn't a Michelin-starred restaurant, but it was cheap, fast, and predictable. You handed over $5, got a mountain of hot carbs, and went on with your day. But over the past few years, that contract has been ripped to shreds. Inflation, rising logistics costs, and plain old corporate greed sent prices through the roof. Value, meaning how much food you get for your money, simply disappeared. People looked at their receipts and said, enough, we'd rather eat at home. The industry started to panic. And what's the classic corporate response to a crisis like this? Exactly, cut costs, pinch pennies. That's exactly what destroyed Wendy's. They had always played the premium fast food game. Fresh beef, edgy marketing. But when the pressure hit, they chose to degrade the product itself. Decisions made in the name of so-called cost efficiency triggered a corporate death spiral. You make the product worse to save money. Customers realize they're being taken for fools and leave. You cut costs again to protect profits. Now look at Burger King, the chain you used to stop at only when literally nothing else was open off the highway. While competitors were cutting quality and quietly shrinking portions, Burger King realized one brilliant thing. When people are running out of money, the winner isn't the company that hides its price increases the best. The winner is the company that gives people back the forgotten feeling of getting a fair deal. And to do that, they had to practically tear their business apart and rebuild it from scratch. So let's dissect this victory. How exactly does the strategy that pulled Burger King back from the bottom work? Lesson number 1. When an industry starts panicking, most marketers have the same instinct. Create noise. Launch a burger with a black bun. Do a collaboration with a TikTok creator. Put pizza on the menu. Do anything to distract you from the fact that the patty got thinner while the price went up. Burger King went in the exact opposite direction. They understood that when the foundation of your house is rotting, picking out new curtains is pointless. You need to fix the foundation. And for Burger King, that foundation was the Whopper. While Wendy's, by its own CEO's admission, was watering down what made its food unique in the name of cutting costs, Burger King poured millions of dollars into making its flagship product better. Not cheaper to produce, not easier to assemble, literally better tasting. They rebuilt their supply chain, they changed cooking standards, they completely redesigned the packaging so the burger wouldn't turn into a sad, soggy sponge by the time you got back to your car. They doubled down on their signature advantage, flame-grilled meat, and started shouting about it from the rooftops. But they went even further and put real money behind it. Burger King introduced a rule. If your Whopper is poorly assembled or cold, they won't just remake it for free on the spot. They'll give you a coupon for another free burger next time. In fast food, where margins can come down to a handful of cents, that is financial suicide if your product is bad. They basically put a gun to their own managers' heads. Either we get it right or we pay for it ourselves. And it worked, because in the age of plastic-tasting food, consistent quality suddenly became a radical innovation. But one good burger isn't enough when people's wallets are getting squeezed. And that brings us to the second lesson. The invisible psychological trap Burger King used to capture millions of Americans. We call it the good deal illusion, but in reality, it's a lifeline. Think about your last trip to a typical fast food restaurant. You look at the menu and start having a mild panic attack. A combo for $14? A burger by itself for $8? You start doing mental math, trying to figure out how to feed yourself without leaving half a day's pay at the register. Going out for cheap food has turned into a stressful math problem. And then Burger King walks in with deals like 2 for $5 or 3 for $7. Reuter specifically points to these promotions as the main driver of Burger King's explosive growth. Why? Because this isn't just a discount. It eliminates cognitive load. When prices everywhere are jumping around like crazy and inflation is eating through your budget, people crave predictability. 2 for $5 is an anchor. You don't have to think. You don't have to choose between fries and nuggets. For $5, you get a clear, tangible amount of food. You feel like you're in control again. You feel like you beat the system. Burger King didn't just lower prices. They sold people a feeling they had almost forgotten, getting more for their money than they expected. That is an incredibly powerful psychological trigger. While competitors were trying to squeeze the maximum possible margin out of every check, Burger King deliberately sacrificed some short-term profit to drive traffic. They got people back into their restaurants. But getting someone through the door is only half the battle. If they walk inside and find sticky floors, a broken kiosk, and a faded menu board from 2005, they'll buy their cheap burger and never come back. And that brings us to the third step, the most expensive and the least visible. While competitors were tightening their belts, Burger King dropped a financial bomb on the market. They launched a program with a dramatic but incredibly accurate name, Reclaim the Flame, and they poured an astronomical $400 million not into metaverses or NFTs, but into hard physical reality. They started remodeling restaurants on a massive scale, buying new grills, upgrading kitchens, replacing storefronts. They understood something simple. During a financial squeeze, when someone comes in looking for affordable food, they shouldn't be made to feel like a loser. The environment should tell them, "We respect you." Now look at what Wendy's was spending money on during that same period. Instead of fixing the food and upgrading the restaurants, they tried to save themselves with cheap hype. They launched collaborations like the absurd Minions and Monsters menu. They tried selling plastic toys, hoping you wouldn't notice that the burger itself had gotten worse. It didn't work, and this is where we reach the point of no return. The hidden cost of this entire story. You didn't think Burger King just put on a Robin Hood costume, handed out cheap burgers to everyone, and they all lived happily ever after, did you? No. For this plan to work, the corporation had to become absolutely ruthless. Those 2 for $5 deals cut margins to the bone. Local restaurant owners, the franchisees, came under enormous pressure. To survive and deliver that same consistent quality, they had to operate at the absolute limit, and not all of them made it. Burger King didn't try to save everyone. They let the weak die. They shut down hundreds of unprofitable locations across the country. They aggressively purged the system of franchisees who refused to invest in the new standards and kept serving cold fries. It was Darwinian natural selection on a corporate scale. Wendy's tried to protect its profits by sacrificing food quality, and that decision is burying the brand right now. And I'm not exaggerating. The death of a corporate giant doesn't happen in slow motion. It can happen in just a couple of quarters. Wendy's didn't just fall 7%. Its actual traffic, the number of people walking through the door, collapsed 12.5%. This year alone, they were forced to board up 245 restaurants. They had to cut investor dividends exactly in half, from 14 cents to 7 cents, just to free up cash and plug holes in a sinking ship. Burger King, meanwhile, sacrificed its weakest outer edges, put the entire system through the grinder, but protected the one thing that mattered most, the core of its product. The paradox of modern fast food is that you can't win by cutting corners anymore. You either bet it all on zero and invest in quality, or you end up in the trash heap of history. So what does all of this mean for you and me? For people who just want something to eat after a long day at work? Wendy's decline and Burger King's triumph prove one incredibly important thing. We are not idiots. For the past few years, giant corporations have acted like they can keep shrinking portions, raising prices, covering it all with slick marketing, and we'll just swallow it. They forgot that fast food isn't fine dining. It's a utility. It's fuel. It's a transaction built on honesty. We don't need truffle sauce and an artisan bun coming through the drive-through window. We need $5 to get us decent hot food without anyone trying to rip us off in the process. When a company forgets why you come to them in the first place and starts seeing you as nothing more than a line item in a cost efficiency report, it loses everything. And when someone, even the perennial underdog, gives you back that basic respect for your wallet, they take the market. The fast food industry isn't dying. What's dying is the corporate arrogance that tried to pass itself off as customer care. What's dying is the illusion that loyalty can be bought with cheap tricks. I want to know where your personal breaking point is. Tell me in the comments which brand lost you for good because it started pinching pennies and making the food worse. Let's build a real picture of the market down there. And if you like the way we dissect the hidden mechanisms of this world, subscribe to the channel. We'll keep exposing what's really going on beneath the surface of the things we take for granted. Until then, vote with your wallet. Choose the companies that respect the deal. Because today, the money you spend is the only language they truly understand.